Hi everyone, I'm Dre, the host and founder of the Dragon Network and a consultant working in the field of healthcare technology. We're looking at some tools and frameworks that can be layered onto our project methodologies. So I thought I'd do a quick video on the Agile approach, and in particular what the Agile Manifesto is all about and how that factors into some of the projects that we're working on. So a lot of the principles that exist in Agile really got their start in the early 90s when we saw an extreme uptick in the number of software programs that were being deployed and developed across all industries globally. As this was occurring, projects were typically following just a standard methodology where they would gather requirements, work to build the solution, and then deliver everything once it was done. And what was happening in the 90s is things were moving so quickly that requirements were actually changing as things were being built. So the lag time that existed between the initial business problem and the delivery of the solution was too long. It was causing things to be delivered and not meet the needs of the business at the time. So there was a lot of frustration both on the software development side as well as on the business side. So to address this lag, several different organizations and consultants and leaders in the industry started looking at ways that they could develop and deliver solutions quicker. That continued throughout the 90s, and in 2001 we had a group of these industry leaders get together. There were 17 of them in total, and they met in Utah to discuss what they had come up with and some of the practices that they were currently using within their organizations. Things like Scrum, extreme programming, dynamic systems development, and a host of other frameworks that were being leveraged by many of these leaders as well as others in the general industry. So when these 17 leaders got together to discuss the approaches that they were taking, they started noticing that there were some common threads between the different methodologies that each of them were using. So they agreed that the concept of iterative development and consistent solution delivery was one that was actually working well across all of these different frameworks that they were employing. So they coupled that with their strong commitment to delivering a high quality product and came up with what's known as the Agile Manifesto. So the Agile Manifesto contains 4 core values that they would commit to for their software development projects. So the manifesto, as it was originally written, reads as follows. We are uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value individuals and interactions over process and tools, working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. That is, while there is value in the items on the right, we value the items on the left more. So along with this manifesto, they also discussed and came up with 12 guiding principles that they were going to use to underpin their project activities going forward. So these 12 guiding principles, which I'll summarize in a second, are actually things that can be layered on or factored in to any project methodologies going forward. So the Agile approach isn't a specific step-by-step guide with requirements and these are the steps you need to follow, these are the documents you need to deliver. Instead, it's these values and guiding principles that are meant to help frame the general approach that you're going to take when you do define the correct methodologies to use for the situation. So let's take a look at the 12 principles, which I've summarized in the following slides. If you do want to take a look at the original text that was written in 2001 for these principles, I'll put the link below. So principle number 1, customer satisfaction is the highest priority, and it is to be achieved through the early and continuous delivery of valuable software. Number 2, changing requirements should not only be accommodated, but they should also be welcomed. So requirements are going to change throughout the life of a project, and you need to incorporate these changes and actually anticipate changes occurring in order to get to a successful project completion date through each of the phases. Don't take requirements at the very beginning and then never look at them again. You need to make sure that things are being sort of reevaluated as you go and that you're accepting change into the process. Number 3, working software or your work product should be delivered frequently. So make sure there's not too much time in between the delivery of portions of your solution. You want to sort of get momentum going and get buy-in along the way. So you want to make sure that there's a consistent flow of benefit that's coming across to the client or end user. Number 4, Collaboration between the business stakeholders and the developers of the project team should occur daily, so it's important to communicate frequently. Number 5, projects should be built around motivated individuals. The team should have the environment and the supports that they need, but then they should be trusted to carry out the work. So it is not beneficial from an overall project delivery perspective to be extremely micromanaging and to not trust the team that's working with you. Number 6, face-to-face is the most efficient and effective way to communicate. So that doesn't mean with an Agile approach that you also don't have written communication or verbal communication that occurs by calls, emails, memos, things like that, but it does mean wherever possible, try to aim for face-to-face. Number 7, progress is measured through the production of working software. So progress along the project is actually going to be measured by the delivery of each of these iterative steps. So as you deliver product or as you deliver pieces of software or functionality, that's what's actually going to measure the progress of the project overall. Number 8, agile processes are meant to support a consistent pace of development. So the pace of activity that the project team is working on, so those iterative loops where they deliver pieces of functionality, pieces of software, or pieces or components of the project product, that should be sustainable forever. So you don't want to get yourself into a continuous loop where the level of activity is unsustainable and you're going to burn the team out. The goal is to actually have a pace of iterative development that can remain consistent and be long-term sustainable. Number 9, agility is enhanced with continuous attention to design and technical excellence. Number 10, maximize your work with simplicity. So don't make things too complicated. Number 11, self-organizing teams will develop the best requirements, designs, and architectures. So if you have the right project team put together and they have the tools and the environment that they need, they'll self-form and collaborate in such a way that they're going to deliver the best product. Number 12, teams should take time to reflect at regular intervals so they can adjust and grow more efficient over time. So those are the 12 principles that were developed in addition to the Agile Manifesto when this group of leaders got together. And like I said, Agile doesn't come forward with a very specific set of, tasks to undergo or rules that you need to follow. It is these values and these different principles that are actually the underlying concept behind the approach. Now, with that said, there are certainly frameworks and methodologies that have been developed that do have very defined and rigid sort of process steps to take that relate to the Agile Principles and the Agile Manifesto. So you will hear a lot about an Agile project plan, an Agile approach to things, but that should be accompanied with some sort of framework to actually execute the project, something that is actually going to define how often you communicate, what your status reports are going to look like, who your stakeholders are, how you're going to manage them, that type of stuff. So the Agile approach is just going to underline everything and really focus on that iterative continuous development and on that interaction with the business. So from a healthcare perspective, the huge benefits we see in an approach that's agile is that it is in fact taking into consideration and welcoming changes in requirements. Some of the projects that we undergo are years in the making, and if we were to stop gathering requirements and not accept any changes, we'd get ourselves into a lot of trouble. So there's regulatory changes, there's patient safety reviews that come out, there's all sorts of things that are continually happening, and we need to be open to those types of adjustments. So with healthcare IT projects, we do need to take a close look at the values that underpin the Agile Manifesto and make sure we're striking the right balance between the right and the left. So we do want strong customer collaboration, for example, but we also need to make sure we document things. We can't just forego that altogether. I hope this was helpful and it gives you an idea of what the Agile Manifesto is, as well as how the principles can be applied to other frameworks. If you do want to learn more about Agile in general, the Agile Alliance is a phenomenal resource. It's a not-for-profit global resource. I'll put the link to that in the description below. There's a ton of information on the Agile approach out there, and I encourage you to look more into it if you are going into project management, or you find yourself in situations where vendors or PMs are coming forward and indicating that they're going to be using an Agile approach, so to really understand the principles that they're going to focus on. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you again next time.